Cool. Hair check, lip check.
Yep.
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. So as anybody is aware, this is episode number 1, and I don't really know what I'm doing. So but I do know that expanding ourselves is really, really, really important in order to do what we want to do in this life. And I am really thrilled that my friend Mindy Strickland is here with me because she's on the same page as me, learning, coaching, developing people. She's been doing it for years. I'm going to let her give you her official title because I'll mess it up, because in my title, she's Mindy Strickland, my friend, friend and mentor. Go ahead. What is your official title?
My official title is District Growth and Development Officer.
And who is that for? You can say.
You said what?
I said, who is that for? You can say.
Okay. Northwestern Mutual for the Lowry District in Fairview Heights and Cape Girardeau.
Absolutely. What number are we as a district office inside this amazing Fortune 100 company that you work and develop people inside? Little rock star.
We are number 4 in the country.
Yeah. So I'm really excited that you said yes to this, because you and I talk about this stuff all the time. And I know that you're just as passionate as I am about seeing people do great things. And I think where I really want to begin for you is I would really like you to tell people where you came from, because did you ever see this coming?
No, I can honestly say that no, I did not. And if I'm really transparent, like I honestly didn't even see myself here at Northwestern. I thought this was going to just be more of a filler of my time. So if I rewound time back 12 years ago, I was pregnant with my daughter, and, she was due in August, and I actually went to school to be a teacher. So I majored in education, and I was in between schools. The school that I was at actually closed down. And so I was kind of in that spot of like, oh, I need to find a new school, but I was due in August. And so I knew that I would be starting out somewhere brand new on maternity leave. And I was just like, I just don't feel great about that. And so I decided, like, you know what, I'm going to take a step back. I can use this time to spend with the baby, but then also be pursuing careers in education. I can do some substitute teaching for the time being, and all would be well.
Were you still married at this time?
I was.
Okay.
I was married at this time. And probably by September, I was bored out of my mind, and I was like, okay, I can't just sit and wait for things to come to me.
Listen, there is no world that I see you just sitting in. That does not, I don't know what universe that is even a possibility.
No.
But I love that you tried it.
Yeah, right. I did briefly, while I had an infant, and it was fun for the time being, but definitely couldn't do that all the time. And so my girlfriend from college actually reached out to me about this opportunity. And, I was like, no, like that's crazy. And she's like, no, I really think that you could be good at this. Like, just have a conversation. And I was like, you don't understand. Like, I'm a teacher. I don't know about finance. I don't know anything about business. Like, this is not for me. And she was like, just have the conversation. So I ended up, interviewing in October, went through a series of interviews. And then in November of 2011, I started. And I've been here ever since. Like, I went in with the intention of like, I'll do this until the school year is over and I could find my new home school. But, I never left.
You're like, and here we are,
yeah.
lifers.
Yeah, here I am.
So, and I don't, you tell as much as this as you want to tell. Like, I mean, again, we're editing. So can you talk a little bit about going through this whole change that you're going through professionally, and then what's happening inside your home?
At that period in my life?
Yeah.
No, I mean, obviously I just had a baby. I also had a 3.5-year-old at home as well. And so life was hectic, starting this brand new job that I really knew nothing about. But on top of it, I was in a very toxic relationship with my kids' father, my husband at the time. I found out I was naive to a lot of things that were actually going on in our marriage, and or maybe I just kind of ignored and didn't really want to believe were happening.
Yeah.
And it ended with drugs and abuse, and it was a scary situation for quite some time, but something that I knew that I had to get out of, which made this all even more scary, is that like I had to figure out how was I going to do this by myself. And I remember at that point in my life, my husband at the time had said, like, there's no way that you're going to be able to make it without me. You need me. And if not, like, you're going to be living at your parents' basement, and your kids are never going to have what they deserve because you need me to be able to do that. And for whatever reason, like, that just kind of lit a fire under me. And I was like, no, I will never need anyone. And I promise you, like, my kids will each have their own room. They will have a play set in the backyard where they can play and I don't have to worry. And that was just kind of my driver. And so for the next, gosh, probably 5 or 6 years, I kind of went through hell with him. Stalking me, stealing from me, telling my kids horrible things about me, but then also just not being a present parent when he was supposed to be there for my kids, and just kind of having to go through the emotional roller coaster of like, why isn't my daddy here? Why isn't my daddy, why didn't he come to pick me up? Doesn't he love me? And so it was just really just not a fun time in my life. And there was a point in time too that he had come to my place of employment and threatened my life. And then my bosses all of a sudden like were now involved in my personal life. And it was just craziness. And something that I thought I was never gonna get out of. I was in like a hamster wheel, and I was just like, how do I get away?
How
So
do I make this ride stop? Right. Like,
right. I want to get off.
so I always find it interesting. I'm all in on how we all connect to each other. The idea that we're all energy, we're made up of the same atoms. Tables and chairs are made up of the same atoms. I'm not saying tables and chairs are alive. I'm just saying, like, it's matter, right? It's science. I'm not a scientist, but I've been told that and I believe it. So I find it really interesting that you were given this opportunity to step into what you now know changed your entire life, right? And is still changing your life. And in some way, it's almost like, because your ex-husband was dealing with addiction and was crazy and is still struggling with it, I know, but forced your hand for you to be seen in everything you were going through, and these people rallied around you.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I thought, honestly, I thought I was going to lose my job. The day that he stormed in the office and screamed and threatened he was going to kill me. And then my boss went out and told him to get off the property, and, they almost got into a fight. I really thought like I was going to lose my job. And so it was at that point in time that like I really felt, protected and cared about by these people that really could have just been like, oh, this girl is a train wreck. Like, we don't want anything to do with this. But they did. They wrapped their arms around me, and they rallied around me being successful and knowing that like I was doing it without him and I didn't need him. And so they were constantly like pouring into me, to make me better. And that's, one of the biggest reasons that I never left here. They did. They poured into me. They wrapped a wool coat around me, and didn't let go.
Yeah, I know, because you and I, we talk about this a lot. Were you coaching and developing at that time, or were you still doing the 12,000 other jobs that you did inside our company?
No. At that time, I was not. I was working just with one. Well, actually, I was working with 3 different advisors, in their personal practices and helping manage their practices. And then I was also coaching a volleyball team, and I was bartending at night as well. Yeah.
So again, this is why in no world can I see you sitting, because why wouldn't you do all of those things? I mean,
I
three
mean,
advisors is really like three different jobs. So
yeah, yes.
do you feel like, and I've never asked you this, but do you feel, but I guess having been in the environment long enough to know that when we're working with our advisors the way we do you feel like that's where you started to really hone in and develop development skills a little bit?
I mean, I think that that was definitely a big piece of it, because I was understanding the more of the science and the art behind the business. And it helped. I was able to correlate a lot of what I learned in school, being a teacher, to what we were doing. And so that's really where my passion grew. And, when I was asked about what I loved about my job, I was fortunate enough to be able to be transparent. And I let my boss know, like, hey, these are the things that I really love. This is what I'm passionate about. And he allowed me to kind of run with that. And that's where this role, kind of evolved into more development, because that is what I love. And that is truly what gets me out of bed every day, is knowing that I can help grow you as an individual. Other people are motivated by money and success, but like, that is my success,
Right.
for me. So,
Right. So we'll switch
yeah.
gears just a little bit. So design statements, I mean, I'd never heard of them before I came to this company, although they're not new. It's not a new idea. It's actually written about in Think and Grow
Right.
Rich by Napoleon Hill. He calls it something a little bit different, but that's essentially what it is. So
Yeah.
when you first, what was your reaction? What was your reaction the first time you heard about a design statement and that they wanted
Oh
you to
my
do one?
gosh. Well, what I heard about first were these ribbons that you could have. And a big part of, the ribbons was all these different achievements that you had throughout the year. The more ribbons that you had, the more successful that you were. And the first thing I thought was like, these people are hyped up over ribbons. Like, this is ridiculous. These are adults.
Yeah. Well,
But then,
who
went
doesn't
into
like a
this
trophy?
right, went into the whole design statement. And I remember listening to a couple different advisors, and I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Didn't really resonate with me until I was asked to write one for myself. And then I was like, this is stupid. I'm not doing this. I really wanted nothing to do with it. I begrudgingly like did it because I had to. And then I was forced to read it. And
Come work with us. We will make you uncomfortable.
yes, I was definitely uncomfortable. I hated every second of it. But then I actually grew to love it. And I realized, like, oh my gosh, like, some of these things are starting to happen. And it was weird because I was like the biggest, like, nope, not doing that. That's just hogwash. You're just writing down all these things and just saying them out loud. But it worked. And
Right.
at
Right.
first then I was like, and that was back in 2013 was when I wrote my very first one.
And have you written one every year, give or take?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know for me, so one of the things that I wanted to touch on with you, because you and I both have experience in this is, and we've both experienced it when doing it, is the initial resistance that each person feels in writing down. And I'm going to use the phrase dream life. A design statement is a lot more than that. A design statement for me is, it's evolved, right? A design statement for me is now, here are the things that I want in my life, personally, professionally, fun stuff, serious stuff, kids stuff, all the stuff.
Yeah.
But who do I have to become? What are the things that person who has those, what are they doing? Right.
Right.
Which was not what my first design statement was. I mean, my first design statement was much like anybody else's, a series of goals. And, this is how I would feel achieving them. But we all have to start somewhere. Why do you think people sit in resistance initially when it comes to describing what they really want?
I think fear. I think fear of the unknown, fear of, is this truly possible? And that's where I really try to challenge people, is believing that it is possible. And then what will it take to make that happen? But I think it's just, people are scared to write those things down. because they know it is going to take a lot more work. It is going to take commitment from them. So,
yeah, one of the things that I find in myself and that I see in others is it's okay to want this much. It's not okay to want this much. This is too much. So, as you know, I sometimes ask people I'm dating or people I'm recruiting and developing the same question because you just don't know how it's going to come out. I will ask people, if I could write you a check every day or every year for the rest of your life, what would that be? And without, I bet 90% of the time, I don't even get six figures. And they almost always say the same thing. Well, I want to be this, but I don't want to be too much. I don't want to have too much, because too much means something bad in their mind. And I think part of the reason that I love working with people and doing this is because I really want to unwind that for people, because I want to live. Oh, good. The internet connection is unstable. We're going to edit that part out. I want to live in the world where everybody is their best version. What does that look like? Like, what are we curing? What wars are we not having? Like, what are families like? What are relationships like? What's your career like? And I find it so interesting that when it's tied to money, because it's not really about money when I ask that question, it's their capacity to, and it's limited. They limit themselves, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
We'll touch on that for me, because you've been doing this a lot longer than I have, right? I mean, I think naturally we probably both have done it our entire lives, but professionally you've been doing this. What are the limiting beliefs that you find that people don't even realize they're making decisions from?
I mean, I think sometimes, just like you said, I think people think, oh my gosh, that's too much. And they automatically have put doubt in their own mind that this isn't possible. Another one of the limiting beliefs that I think most often is just very surface level. Like they're not really thinking deep, peeling back the onion about what they truly want and why they want it. It's just, hey, I want a new car, or I want a lake house. And, they're putting those things on paper, but they're not really connected to it in a deeper way. Those are the biggest hurdles that I think that I have to help people to jump through when they're sitting down to write a design statement. But then also, like, what does it truly take from you? What is your commitment level to this? How does that feel every single day when you're out there and you're grinding? Are you remembering in the back of your head, this is why I'm doing this? Because those are the things that are going to help you push through the really, really challenging times.
Yeah, absolutely. So part of my design statement is I read my design statement twice a day out loud. And I myself am struggling with that second time. Like, I have it by my bed, I have it at my desk, and I have it in my car. So I have created the opportunities to do it. And I'm faithful in the morning. I'm faithful in the morning. But I find it even interesting in myself, with as much good as I've seen these things do for people, that I'm struggling to even read it that second time, and the power of that, right? It's because it's not enough to just write it. I mean, that's good, because what's the statistic? It's like 3% of people ever even write down goals, and like less than 1% even read them ever again. So it's good to write it and it's good to uncover it, but like the reading of it. One thing I have found is when you can read it, and you're all in, and then, just like you said, stuff is happening inside it. And now you kind of adjust, and you realize, I need to write a new one, right? I'm going to do something different now. Like, I did this, or most of it, or whatever. And now I'm no longer connected to this, because I think you developed, you became that next version. You became the next thing. And now you have to speak to that. So I've come to appreciate these little, like, pockets of resistance, and also pockets of like, check mark. Like, now we're going to evolve. So what do you think? So you've coached a lot of people who have done great success, and you've coached people who had the potential to be great success here, not to say that they weren't successful elsewhere. What's the
Right.
thing that they have in common when it comes to, I'm going to say vision, if there is anything?
Um, I mean, that's kind of hard to answer. I mean, I think that what they all have in common is that they do have a vision and know that there is something that they want, but I think the big difference is that they're able to connect it to a deeper why. And those are the people that you really see push through, because like I said, like when things get really, really challenging, that's when you've got to go back to the center and realize like, okay, I remember why I'm doing this, and this is what I truly want, and this is what's going to get me there. And I think that's the big differentiator between the two types of people. Not that those other people don't really want something, but like there's not something deep enough inside them that is going to force them to do the most uncomfortable things.
Yeah. Yes, uncomfortable is a big growth word. So, I mean, you have to get uncomfortable. You have to be willing to be uncomfortable to grow. That's what I have learned. And I've learned that more.
You have to.
I started, it's interesting. I started in the world of personal development when I was 25, when I was living in Utah. I was nannying for this family, and they had gone through they met going through this like seminar company called PSI Seminars. I think they sold the company, but I don't even know if they're still around, but they've been around for a long time. And the mom was like, we want you to go to this. I mean, I was just like a part-time nanny. Like, so they sent me to this 4-day seminar, and I still remember this. I mean, it was a room full of 200 people, and it was like 8 to like 10. I mean, it was all day for 4 days. Like, I was like, I am in a cult. What's happening? Like, and they didn't even really want you to get up and go to the bathroom unless it was the breaks. So you understand my ability to follow rules, which is almost none.
No rules. Rules don't apply.
I mean, I'm really trying to understand that about myself, but I've been thinking since you and I started talking about doing this first, I really thought about that 4-day seminar, because I really remember I had to get up and go to the restroom, and it was not a break time. And they asked me, they had people at the doors. And they asked me, do you really feel like this is important right now? I'm like, I'm an adult. I know when I need to take a break, right?
Right.
But the point and they said that's, you go, we're not trying to stop you. Also, just be aware that sometimes when things are coming up that you're uncomfortable with, that's happening inside the room, you want to escape it. Right. And you don't even realize it. And so I've been thinking about that, because I didn't really give much thought to it then. I would love to remember what was coming up in that room at that time. Yeah. Because it's not like I was going to pee myself. You know what I mean? Right. And that's something that like fascinates me about this whole process is, what is the thing in our brain that we can't even read or see that says, get out, abort, right? Mission over. Anyway, so that just a little sidebar, but I've really been giving that some thought. So I kind of hope it magically drops into my brain, because I think that's probably like kind of I think it's important.
No, I mean, I absolutely do. I know that when I get away from reading my design statement, it's because I am not doing the things that I need to be doing. And so I don't even want to face the reality and read it out loud to myself, because I know I'm not doing those things. Yeah. And so it's much more comfortable for me to just ignore it and not read it. So then I don't think about it. Right. But it's all about getting uncomfortable. And I mean, talk about getting uncomfortable. The first time I read my most recent vision or design statement with my managing partner, it was about 1.5 years ago or 2 years ago, I guess now. And it was the first time that I'd ever shared with anyone that I had written on paper that like, I wanted to be a managing director and have my own office. And I mean, he was just like, what? Like, and I mean, me putting that out there, I was like, so nervous. I was like, he's going to be like, you're crazy. Like, this is not possible. But he was just like, wow, that is a clear vision, and I want to help you do whatever I can to help you get there. And that's when I realized that like I was limiting my own success by not thinking bigger, and believing that like, well, is that really possible? That's not a thing. I just put it out there. I had no idea if I could actually be managing director or not. Like, was I allowed to be? I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I put it out there,
I
and
don't even know
yeah,
if this follows the rules, but let's
just
do
see
it.
what happens. But I put it out there, and now I have people rallied around me. And that is, one of the most powerful things about my vision, I think, is that, I share it with people and they want to be on my bus and help me. And that is like the best feeling in the world, is just kind of knowing, like, I have people ask me all the time, like, you're still doing that thing, right? Like, you're still going to open an office in a few years. Like, yeah. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Like, let me help you. I've got somebody for you. And I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah, I know. That's the other, like, it's funny because I think most humans are built like that. And as we continue to evolve, we get less like that. But we kind of all start in this place of, I don't know if I think shame has a great deal. People live in a lot of shame a lot of times with stuff that they're holding on to and that says to them, I can't do this. I shouldn't do this. Other people think I shouldn't do this. This is a bad idea. And they never share what's really possible. I love that word, possible. You do have to go beyond possible, but watching people live in possibility, taking that moment that you did to write it down was your first step to living in the possibility, really living in. Thinking it is great, right? But putting it down and then sharing it and finding out that the people that you have been so blessed to surround yourself with are all in on that. That's like, I really hope that as I continue to grow this business and getting deeper and deeper with people, that's really the biggest outcome, is that people really realize not only is it possible, it's doable. And I have the people around me that are going to be, even if it's one person, and even if it's not until you evolve to get to be able to be somebody who attracts that person to you, having that belief,
right?
That's the stuff, that is the stuff that changes worlds, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I mean, I think
That's half the battle
oftentimes,
right there. Just even having the belief in yourself that like, I'm putting this out there, I'm making it known, I'm making it public. Like, that's hard,
yeah,
but you have to have the belief deep inside you that you can do it. The other things will come.
yeah. I mean, the belief leads to action. Action usually leads to messiness. You got to be willing to get messy. And then you just keep getting better and better and better. Years ago, so Brendan Burchard, do you listen to him at all?
A little bit. You've sent me a couple things.
Couple things. So I kind of go through spurts on who I'm like following and listening, who have impacted me. But this is before 2017 is when I heard this. And I still remember in the moment, I think I'm going to be option 2, and that's not the way to be. But I think that's where I'm stuck at. And he basically said, he was talking about podcasts and talking about development or doing whatever it is that you want to do. But he used podcasts specifically. He said, right now, there are people who are turning their phones on and they're just putting it out there. Also, there are people right now who want to do that very thing and are not. They're studying it. They're doing this. Right. And he goes, the people who are doing it, no matter how bad it is, are getting better every day. And you're still waiting to get better enough to do it. And that has really stayed with me because I do operate that way. In the past I have. And I think that's one of the things that has made me really want to take action now, is reach those people who are operating that way. Because what's the saying? Like, the cemetery is the most expensive place because of all of the dreams that are dead, that nobody took action on.
Right.
I'm like, what cures are there? What problems have been unraveled already, and yet nobody took any action on it. Right. So I just want to thank you for being my first guest.
Well, I feel honored that you asked me to be your first guest.
Well, it's an interesting thing taking this on. Like, I don't know exactly how you and I do what we do with people. I know that people share a lot of things with both of us. And I think that when they share with us, that gives them the room to expand themselves. And I couldn't think of a better person to talk to about that my first time doing this. So
I
Sure.
appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, I love you. You're amazing.
And so are you. I love
Thanks,
you too.
sister. All right, I'm gonna hit stop. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Stop recording.